All right, ready to dive in. This time we're tackling Tokyo, but, and this is how we do, we're going way beyond the surface.
All right, we're talking about the historical DNA of this place, unearthing those unexpected quirks that you won't find in any guidebook.
Because honestly, who needs another rundown of the most popular sushi spots, right? Our listeners are ready for the good stuff. The aha moments that make you see Tokyo in a whole new light.
Exactly, and thankfully your Wikipedia excerpts are packed with them. Where should we even start?
Well, we've got to rewind a bit, right? I mean, Tokyo wasn't always this sprawling megacity. Picture this. It started as Edo, a humble fishing village. Can you even imagine?
It's almost impossible to picture those quiet shores with the Tokyo of today in mind. But that's where our story starts, and things really get interesting in 1603. Edo catches the eye of Tokugawa Ieyasu. Big name, big ambitions.
Sounds like someone's about to climb the power ladder.
Fast. He chooses Edo as his base, the seat of his shogunate. This is a power move on a massive scale. Think about it. It's like suddenly shifting all the political weight of a country to a new capital.
A total shakeup. So Edo's officially on the map, but how does this one decision transform it from a fishing village to, well, Tokyo?
This is where we enter the Edo period. Get this, over 2.5 centuries of relative peace. The Pax Tokugawa.
Whoa, wait, 250 years. That's almost unheard of, especially back then.
Right, and that peace allows Edo to flourish. Art, culture, the whole city just explodes. But, and there's always a but, it came at a cost.
Isolation, right.
Exactly. The shogunate enforces this incredibly strict policy, essentially shutting Japan off from the rest of the world. Imagine that for over 2 centuries. It's like hitting pause on a society, leaving it to develop in its own little bubble.
Wow. So we've got Edo, thriving but totally cut off. Talk about a cultural time capsule. How does that bubble finally burst?
It takes a dramatic entrance, naturally. Picture this. 1853, Commodore Perry of the United States sails right into Edo Bay with a message. Open up for trade or else.
Talk about making an entrance. Edo, and I guess Japan as a whole, can't exactly ignore that, can they?
Not a chance. It's a seismic shift. Think about the impact. Centuries of isolation, and suddenly, bam, they're thrust onto the global stage.
I bet that ruffled some feathers. What happens next?
Edo and Japan as a whole go through some major growing pains. Rapid modernization, a whole lot of political upheaval. It all culminates in a massive turning point. The 1868 Meiji Restoration.
Okay, gotta pause you there for a sec. Meiji Restoration.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, right?
It's huge. It's a total power shift. The reign of the shogunate ends, the emperor is back in control, and Edo, our little fishing village turned bustling capital, well, it gets a new title befitting its new era. Tokyo, Eastern capital. It's a whole new Japan.
Wow, so we're not just talking about a name change. It's like hitting the reset button on their entire society.
Absolutely. Imagine the changes. This isn't just about new buildings and technology. It's about a fundamental shift in their identity.
It makes you think about those cultural growing pains, trying to embrace the future without losing sight of their past.
Exactly. And those growing pains, they weren't over yet. Just a few decades later, Tokyo faces another turning point. This time, it's not political revolution, but natural disaster. The Great Kanto Earthquake of 1923.
That's the one that leveled the city, right?
Yeah.
I've seen pictures. It's hard to even grasp the scale of the devastation.
Unimaginable. Over 100,000 lives lost, entire districts reduced to rubble. It's a pivotal moment in Tokyo's story, not just for the tragedy, but for what rises from the ashes.
And that's where we start to see the Tokyo skyline as we know it today, right?
Exactly. See, the earthquake, as devastating as it was, it revealed a crucial flaw in Tokyo's architecture. The traditional wooden buildings, they were beautiful, but incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Wood versus that kind of raw power. No contest.
Exactly. But the newer concrete buildings, those fared much better. Brutal lesson, but it spurred a major shift in how they rebuilt. It's like the city itself decided to adapt, to become stronger, more resilient.
And that's reflected in their approach to architecture even today. Those skyscrapers aren't just about aesthetics, they're a testament to that determination to withstand whatever comes their way. So we've gone from peace to devastation and back again. It makes you think about those turning points, those moments that redefine a city's DNA. But let's not forget, another defining chapter is about to unfold. World War II.
And once again, Tokyo finds itself at the heart of global conflict, facing destruction on a scale they'd never seen before. But even in the face of unimaginable loss, a spirit of resilience emerges.
It's hard to imagine going through what they did, not once, but twice in just a few decades. And yet here we are, talking about Tokyo Not as a city defined by disaster, but as a global powerhouse. How do you even begin to recover from that?
That's the incredible part. It's not just about rebuilding what was lost, but about embracing a new vision for the future. It's a testament to the spirit of the Japanese people. It's almost like the city itself embodies the spirit of overcoming adversity, constantly pushing boundaries, reinventing itself.
Okay, so we've covered the historical bedrock, the peace, the destruction, the rebirth. But what about Tokyo today? What's it like to actually experience this city? Where do we even begin to unpack that?
Well, we could talk for hours, but let's start with something that might surprise you. Tokyo's demographics.
Okay, hit me. What's so surprising about their demographics? It's a massive city, right? Lots of people, lots of energy.
It is. But here's the thing. For one of the most densely populated cities on Earth, Tokyo has a surprisingly low card ownership rate.
Wait, really? But
Yeah.
how? I mean, I know their public transportation system is legendary, but still, it seems almost counterintuitive, right? In a city that packed, you'd think everyone would want their own set of wheels.
And that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. They've designed their entire city around efficiency, around interconnectedness.
So it's not just about having a great metro system, it's that the entire urban fabric is woven around it.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. For many Tokyo residents, car ownership just isn't seen as necessary. It's expensive, parking is a nightmare, and when the alternative is so efficient, so reliable, why bother?
It's like they're living in the future of urban planning.
And speaking of the future, that brings us to one of the biggest challenges Tokyo faces: sustainability. How do you maintain a megacity of this scale while minimizing its environmental impact? It's something they grapple with every single day.
Yeah, it's not like you can just hit the undo button on being a megacity. So how are they tackling it? What's their strategy?
Well, for one, they've been ahead of the curve on things like emissions caps. In fact, their cap and trade system has been hugely influential, proving that even massive cities can make strides in reducing their carbon footprint.
Right, it's about setting those ambitious goals and then actually putting in the work to achieve them.
And it's not just about policy, it's about a collective mindset. Think back to the car ownership thing. That's a cultural shift, a move towards viewing sustainability as an integral part of their way of life.
So it's a two-pronged approach. Top-down policies working in tandem with grassroots cultural shifts.
And it's not easy, but they're constantly innovating, experimenting, trying to find that sweet spot where a thriving megacity coexists with a healthy planet.
I have a feeling they're up for the challenge.
Mm.
But sustainability aside, what other big issues are on Tokyo's plate? What keeps city planners up at night?
Well, there's the ever-present challenge of managing urban sprawl. Tokyo is constantly evolving, new neighborhoods popping up, older ones being revitalized.
It's like a living, breathing organism,
Yeah.
constantly growing and changing.
And they have to manage that growth carefully, making sure they preserve green spaces, maintain the unique character of different areas. It's a delicate balancing act.
It's like playing a city-sized game of Tetris, trying to fit all these different pieces together without knocking the whole thing over.
A pretty accurate analogy. And that's part of what makes Tokyo so fascinating. It's this incredible blend of ancient traditions and cutting-edge solutions. They're not afraid to push boundaries, yet they still stay rooted in their history.
It's a good reminder that modern doesn't have to mean erasing the past. Speaking of blends, let's talk about one of Tokyo's most iconic features: fashion. From the streets of Harajuku to those elegant kimonos, it seems like Tokyoids know how to make a statement. How did Tokyo become such a global fashion capital?
It's this really cool interplay between tradition and honestly a bit of rebellion. Take Harajuku, for example.
Oh, I know Harajuku. Tell me there's a good story there.
There is. It's become synonymous with bold, colorful street style, but it wasn't always that way.
Really? So how did it transform into the fashion hub it is today?
It was a gradual evolution. See, Harajuku was originally a fairly traditional neighborhood, but in the 1970s, it started attracting young people. And they weren't content with the status quo. They wanted to express themselves, to break free from societal norms. And fashion became their tool of choice.
It's like they created their own world, a space where they could be whoever they wanted to be through fashion. I love that.
And that's the beauty of it. It became this breeding ground for new trends, this explosion of creativity that the world just couldn't ignore.
It makes you wonder, with all this emphasis on the avant-garde, is there still a place for traditional attire, like the kimono in modern Tokyo?
Absolutely. The kimono might be seen as traditional, but it's far from fading away. You'll see it worn for special occasions, festivals, weddings. It's a powerful way to connect with their heritage.
So it's less about clinging to the past and more about finding ways to weave those traditions into the fabric of modern life.
Precisely. And it's not just fashion, it's everywhere in Tokyo. Their architecture, for example, ancient temples sharing the skyline with futuristic skyscrapers.
Or their cuisine.
Yeah,
Michelin-starred restaurants right next to tiny ramen shops.
you're getting it. Speaking of food, we've got to talk about the culinary scene in Tokyo. I mean, this is a city that's practically synonymous with incredible food. What makes Tokyo such a foodie paradise?
Okay, I'm ready to be persuaded to book a flight just for the food. What's the secret ingredient?
It's the dedication, the precision, the artistry that goes into every single bite. Japanese chefs approach cooking with this incredible reverence, this attention to detail. It's about the quality of the ingredients, the balance of flavors, even the presentation. Everything matters.
You've officially made me hungry. So, for our listeners who are planning a trip to Tokyo, what are the absolute must-try dishes? What should be at the top of their foodie bucket list?
Well, you can't go to Tokyo without experiencing real sushi. And I'm not talking about just any sushi. Find yourself a sushi-ya, a traditional sushi restaurant.
Sushi, got it. What makes it so special?
It's an experience. You're not just grabbing a quick bite. You're sitting at the counter, watching the chef prepare each piece with meticulous care, using the freshest ingredients. It's about the skill, the intimacy, the respect for the craft.
It's like sushi is performance art. Okay, I'm sold. What else? What if I'm feeling adventurous?
If you're feeling truly adventurous, we need to talk about fugu.
Wait, fugu?
It's
Definitely.
a poisonous puffer fish.
That you're not supposed to eat unless it's prepared by a highly trained chef who knows exactly which parts to avoid so you don't, die?
The one and only. It's considered a delicacy, but it requires a highly skilled, specially licensed chef to prepare it because, yes, certain parts of the fish are incredibly toxic.
That's what I call trusting your chef.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart, but if you're looking for a culinary thrill, an experience you won't forget.
I'll keep it in mind. But for those of us who prefer our food a little less,
Yeah.
life or death,
Yeah.
what are some other options?
Tokyo's culinary scene is about way more than just high-stakes dining. For a more down-to-earth, but equally delicious experience, you can't go wrong with ramen.
Okay, ramen I can get behind. Give me all the details.
Imagine this. Steaming bowls of flavorful broth, perfectly cooked noodles, your choice of toppings. It's the ultimate comfort food, and Tokyo does it best.
See, now that's what I'm talking about. But enough about the main courses. What about dessert? Does Tokyo have a sweet tooth?
Does it ever? From traditional sweets like mochi, these little chewy rice cakes often filled with sweet bean paste, to incredibly delicate French pastries, Western-style cakes, you name it, they've got it. Tokyo has a dessert for every palate.
You're making it impossible to choose. Okay, how about we shift gears from taste buds to something a bit more active? I know Tokyo is a huge sports city, both in terms of spectatorship and just a general love of staying active. What gets their heart rates up?
You're right, Tokyo has this infectious energy, this passion for sports that's contagious.
So what are the big sports there? What should we be watching?
Well, baseball is practically a religion here.
I can only imagine how electric the atmosphere must be at a game in Tokyo.
It's something else. The roar of the crowd, the crack of the bat, the energy, and it's not just about watching either. Many Tokyoites are athletes themselves.
So what other sports draw big crowds?
Soccer's hugely popular. They've got some great local teams, FC Tokyo, Tokyo Verdy, and the fans are seriously dedicated.
Of course, we can't forget about sumo.
How could we? Sumo is so deeply ingrained in Japanese culture, and Tokyo is the place to experience it.
So where do we go to catch a match?
Head straight for the Ryogoku Kokugikan, the most famous sumo stadium in Japan. It's where 3 of the 6 grand sumo tournaments are held each year.
Those tournaments are legendary. It's more than just a sport, it's an event.
Exactly. It's this incredible spectacle. Athleticism, tradition, pageantry. The energy is unlike anything else.
So whether you're a die-hard baseball fan or a sumo enthusiast, Tokyo's got something for every sports fan. But you mentioned something earlier about Tokyoites being active even beyond organized sports, right?
Absolutely. This is a city designed for walking, but it's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about soaking up the atmosphere, discovering its hidden alleyways, stumbling upon little neighborhood gems you wouldn't find otherwise.
It's like the city itself is encouraging you to slow down, to really experience it.
Yeah.
Love that. But for those times when you need a break from the urban jungle, where do Tokyoites go to reconnect with nature?
That's the beauty of Tokyo. You're never too far from a little bit of nature.
Even in a mega city like that.
especially in a megacity like that. They've done an amazing job integrating parks and green spaces throughout the city. It's like having these little pockets of tranquility tucked away amidst the urban hustle.
Give me some highlights. Where should our listeners make a beeline for when they need a dose of nature?
You can't go wrong with Ueno Park. It's the sprawling green oasis right in the heart of the city. They've got museums, temples, even a zoo.
Wait, a whole zoo in the middle of Tokyo. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Okay, what if I'm looking for something a little quieter, maybe a bit more off the beaten path?
If you're craving tranquility, check out the Imperial Palace East Garden. It's this incredibly serene oasis right in the heart of the city with beautiful gardens, traditional architecture. You can feel the history there.
Sounds like the perfect place to find your zen. Okay, so we've covered the great outdoors, but what about the urban jungle itself? Tokyo is known for its incredible architecture, that unique blend of ancient and modern. Where should our listeners go to experience that?
That's the beauty of it. You're constantly surrounded by it. It's like this ongoing dialogue between the past and present woven into the very fabric of the city.
Okay, you've got to give us some specifics. Where do we start?
Well, no trip to Tokyo is complete without a visit to the Sensuji Temple in Asakusa.
I've heard of that one. It's that iconic temple with a giant red lantern, right?
That's the one. It's Tokyo's oldest temple, dating all the way back to the 7th century.
Wow, the 7th century. I can only imagine how many stories those walls could tell.
It's not just a historical relic, though.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing, spiritual center. You can feel the weight of history there, but also a sense of peace, of continuity.
It sounds like a truly special place.
Yeah.
What about something on the completely opposite end of the architectural spectrum? I want skyscrapers, futuristic designs, the works.
Well, you can't talk about Tokyo's skyline without mentioning the Tokyo Skytree.
Ah, yes, the Skytree, the ultimate symbol of modern Tokyo. What's it like to actually be up there?
It's an experience, standing at a staggering 634 meters tall. Well, it's hard to miss.
That's an understatement.
And the views from the observation decks are breathtaking. On a clear day, you can see for miles. You can even see Mount Fuji.
Okay, that's going straight on the bucket list.
Yeah.
But beyond the Skytree, what else should we add to our architectural must-sees?
If you're looking for something a little more unconventional, a little more head-turning, check out the MaedaAkihiko Cocoon Tower.
The Cocoon Tower. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's this totally unique cocoon-shaped building that houses 3 different educational institutions.
So they even make their schools look cool. Only in Tokyo.
And it's not just striking to look at, it's incredibly sustainable, too. They're really committed to eco-friendly design.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, any other architectural icons we need to know about?
We can't forget about the Tokyo Tower.
Oh, right. The Tokyo Tower. It's that classic orange and white tower, right?
The one and only. It might not be as tall as the Skytree, but it holds a special place in the hearts of Tokyoites. It was actually inspired by the Eiffel Tower and was the tallest structure in Japan until the Skytree came along.
It's amazing how much Tokyo's skyline has changed and evolved over the years, yet each of these structures, from the ancient temples to the modern skyscrapers, tells a story about the city's journey.
That's the magic of Tokyo's architecture. It's a visual representation of this city's incredible ability to embrace both its past and its future, to find harmony in the contrasts.
So we've wandered through ancient temples, marveled at those soaring skyscrapers, and even sampled some of Tokyo's incredible culinary delights. But let's not forget, exploration is all about uncovering those hidden gems, the places that might not be on every tourist map, but that really reveal the true heart and soul of a city.
I couldn't agree more. Tokyo is a city brimming with surprises, just waiting to be discovered. Are you ready to delve into the lesser-known corners of this fascinating metropolis?
I'm always up for an adventure. Lead the way. All right, fellow Tokyo explorers, we're nearing our final destination on this deep dive. We've scaled those architectural giants, wandered through tranquil gardens. But Tokyo, well, Tokyo always has a few more surprises up its sleeve, right?
Always. It's like they have a knack for hiding those little pockets of magic in plain sight. The trick is knowing where to look.
That's why we have you. So what hidden gems are we unearthing today?
Let's start with a little slice of old Tokyo, a neighborhood that somehow managed to resist the relentless march of time. Yanaka-Ginza.
Yanaka-Ginza. Okay, that's a new one. Is it like the Ginza we all know, but...
Feels different. Think of it like Ginza's charming, nostalgic cousin. Instead of those sleek high-rises and designer boutiques, Yanaka-Ginza gives you a glimpse of what Tokyo used to be. Quaint shops, traditional tea houses, those old-fashioned candy stores that take you right back to childhood.
You're painting quite the picture here. I'm already picturing myself wandering down those narrow streets.
It's an experience. Those streets lined with wooden houses, the scent of cherry blossoms in the air, maybe even some traditional music playing softly.
It's like stepping back in time. Okay, Yanaka Genza, I'm adding that to my list. But what about those times when you crave that modern Tokyo vibe? The energy, the lights, all of it. Where do we go for that?
Let's head back to Shibuya, but this time we're going up, way up. Ever heard of Shibuya Sky?
Hold on, didn't we already do the Tokyo Sky Tree? What's so special about this one? Another observation deck?
Oh, this isn't just any observation deck. Shibuya Sky is perched atop the Shibuya Scramble, aka the world's busiest intersection.
Okay, you've got my attention. So instead of looking out at the city, you're actually in it.
Exactly! You're surrounded by skyscrapers with a bird's eye view of that iconic scramble below.
Okay, I can see the appeal in that. Talk about a unique perspective. You've given us the traditional and the ultra-modern. How about we find a happy medium, a place that strikes that perfect balance between old and new?
You read my mind. Let's head to Kichijoji.
Kichijoji. Tell me more.
It's one of Tokyo's most livable neighborhoods. It's got this relaxed, charming vibe, but with a modern edge. Think cozy cafes, independent boutiques, tree-lined streets, but also incredible green spaces. In fact, it's home to the Ghibli Museum.
Did you say the Ghibli Museum? As in Studio Ghibli?
The one and only.
Now that's what I call a hidden gem. For anyone who hasn't experienced their films, Studio Ghibli is the creative force behind classics like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro.
Their work is pure magic.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ghibli Museum aside, what else makes Kichijoji so special?
It's got this wonderful energy. It's lively, but also incredibly laid back. It's a side of Tokyo you don't always see, but once you experience it, you'll wonder why it's not on every tourist map.
It's amazing how Tokyo can be so many things at once. You can wander through ancient temples, then find yourself in a hip, artsy neighborhood, then end up at a museum dedicated to animation. It's like every corner you turn reveals a new facet of the city's personality.
That's the beauty of it. Tokyo refuses to be put in a box. It's constantly evolving, surprising you, challenging your perceptions.
And isn't that what truly makes a place unforgettable? Well, here we are at the end of our Tokyo journey. We've covered a lot of ground. We've gone from Ito's humble beginnings to the sprawling megacity Tokyo is today.
We've explored its history, its resilience, its unique ability to embrace both tradition and cutting-edge innovation.
We've wandered through bustling markets and peaceful gardens, marveled at ancient temples and futuristic skyscrapers. We've even dared to imagine tasting that infamous fugu.
All thanks to the power of a good Wikipedia deep dive.
It just goes to show you never know what you might uncover when you take the time to really delve into a subject.
And Tokyo, as we've learned, is a city that begs to be explored, to be experienced.
So to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to look a little closer, to seek out those hidden gems, and to never stop exploring the world around you. Until next time.
Happy travel!